Welcome to Unit 7, Gender Responsive Teaching and Learning Materials. By the end of this unit, you should be able to identify gender stereotypes in teaching and learning materials, select and develop gender responsive teaching and learning materials, know how to transform gender biased messages in existing teaching and learning materials. Teaching and learning materials are fundamental to the pedagogical process and can serve to promote an inclusive society, or they can reproduce and reinforce systems of oppression, discrimination, and inequality. They contribute to the construction of beliefs and values in students about gender norms, vocational choices, and future opportunities. Please write in the space provided some ways that you have seen gender stereotypes perpetuated in textbooks. Women and girls are portrayed as weak, passive, and submissive, and they're mostly depicted in domestic, caregiving, and support roles. Men are often portrayed as powerful, assertive, and intelligent, and often represented as doctors, engineers, politicians, or other powerful figures. Additionally, the pronoun he is often used to refer to both men and women. Since updated textbooks may not be an option, it falls to the teacher to be able to develop gender-responsive materials on their own, or adapt existing textbooks to transform gender stereotypes into positive messages that promote and support gender equality. Students can also be taught to critically analyze and deconstruct gender representation themselves. A first step in developing gender-responsive teaching and learning materials is to review the existing textbooks and other learning tools. The sample templates found on pages 58 and 59 in your toolkit and shown in this slide can support you and your students in analyzing the gender responsiveness of images, text, and activities found in textbooks. Teachers can use these templates to analyze and adopt materials themselves or with their peers. Teachers may also incorporate the analysis in the classroom lesson to help develop students' critical thinking skills and expand their awareness of gender-responsive pedagogy. In order to sharpen our skills, let's practice using the templates to analyze materials. In the next activity, you will sharpen your skills in critically analyzing teaching materials through a gender-responsive lens. Please download the worksheet and complete the included charts for the 3 examples. When you are done, please upload the worksheet. What about this image is not gender responsive? There are multiple answers, but for example, the tasks assigned to men reinforce stereotypes. Manual labor, shopkeeper, fisher person, and in a position of authority as a headmaster or business person. Women are also shown doing stereotypical tasks. A school teacher, a seamstress, a secretary or typist, and a food server. However, both men and women are shown serving food, which provides a gender-responsive lens. What are some critical questions you might ask to prompt students to analyze the gender representation in these images? Again, there are multiple answers, but here are some few possibilities. What type of tasks are the men and women shown doing? Are these tasks stereotypical? Do women serve in roles of authority, such as headmistress, or work as agricultural laborers? Do men work as tailors or teachers? What are some ways you might adopt or change the image to make it more gender responsive? Some sample answers include: provide images that break down stereotypes, show men caring for children at home and women as headmistresses, show women as shopkeepers and men as tailors. What about this text is not gender responsive? Some sample answers include: the text suggests that a woman is judged by her looks. It suggests that men are not willing to tolerate power in a woman and that they need to dominate their wives and be better than them. It also suggests that a woman would be wise if you choose not to step into her power but to downplay it. What are some critical questions you might ask to prompt students to analyze the gender representation in this text? Some sample answers include: in what way do you see the princess depicted? In what way do you see the man depicted? Why would it be threatening for a woman to be beautiful? Why would a man feel he is better than his wife? Why would a woman downplay her strengths? How would it feel if you were judged by your appearance as a main criteria for evaluation? What are some ways you might adopt or change the text to make it more gender responsive? Some potential answers are: the princess found a husband who valued her for her intelligence, her skills, her beauty, and was proud to have her as his wife. What about this text is not gender responsive? Here are some possible answers. Several terms are not gender inclusive: fisherman, sportsmen, and housewives. It suggests that only men fish and only men engage in sports, and that only women are responsible for housework like laundry. What are some critical questions you might ask to prompt students to analyze the gender representation in this text? Sample answers include: in what way are the terms used for the different professions gender responsive or gender inclusive? In what way are stereotypes reinforced? What are some ways you might adapt or change the text to make it more gender responsive? Here are some potential answers: fishermen to fisher people or folk, sportsmen to sports people or persons, housewife to homemaker, her daily activities to their daily activities. While ideally governments would update textbooks to be gender responsive and inclusive, this is unlikely to comprehensively happen soon. It is therefore important for teachers to cultivate their own ability to analyze teaching materials for gender bias and to develop the capacity of their students to critically analyze textbooks and other reading materials for gender bias. Gender responsive teaching and learning materials are most effective when the activities use participatory methods, collaborative work, and are learner centered, addressing the specific needs of diverse students. Using a variety of methods to engage multiple intelligences and diverse learning styles helps students with different learning needs participate more fully. It is also important to use materials that are culturally relevant to the lives of the students, using real-life examples, situations, and community issues as principal materials for discussion. Using stories, examples, music, and images that reflect their local context engages students in learning by relating complex subjects to things that they know. In resource-poor schools, where educational materials are scarce, teachers can leverage creative and interactive activities and take advantage of physical surroundings to engage learners and create a gender equitable environment. Here are some tips and strategies. See pages 60 to 66 in your toolkit for examples of these creative approaches to teaching. Use drama games, role plays, and skits. Theatrical performance is a fun way to learn, develop language and communication skills, build empathy, and engage critical thinking and problem solving. Ensure that both boys and girls have leading roles in a drama skit. Drama is a great way to build confidence, strengthen the use of voice, and develop public speaking skills for girls. Find ways for girls to represent empowered female characters. Invite students to act or try on a character role of the opposite gender can also be a way to develop empathy for the experience of others. To make board games, find an old piece of cardboard, perhaps from the cardboard box, and draw a grid or need to create a simple bingo board, or draw in some snakes and ladders, which can form the basis of just about any board game. You do not need to have real markers for a board game. Using dried beans, popcorn seeds work just as well. The board game can include elements that break down stereotypes and provide models for boys and girls to see themselves in many different roles and with many different skills. Pictures and written content from magazines and newspapers can be used to elicit vocabulary, concepts, and critical thinking. Pictures can be used as flashcards for primary levels, as prompts for critical reflection. See activity, art codes in Unit 4. Create context for any given lesson. Task students to find empowering images of both genders or use existing media stereotypes to ask critical questions about the impact of these images have on girls or women, boys or men, and society. Using music and song in a classroom is great for students to reflect on its content and learn languages and requires no resources. Have a song context in which students create original lyrics to a well-known song about the topic at hand, or analyze the content of existing lyrics through a gender lens and help students to identify misogyny and objectification of women. Challenge them to create lyrics that promote messages of respect, equality, and inclusion. Share songs that promote gender equality and girls and women in roles that are typically held by men, such as this one composed by Robert Chiwamba, a well known poet, and Asanji, an award winning musical artist. Take a moment to listen to this song by Robert Chiwamba.
Iye ndi wamkazi simukunama koma zoti ntchitoyi sangagwire chifukwa chachimuna ndikuletsa wawa monga bololo osamva m'matope agwera nawo m'matope nkutuluka osapakika ngati nankafumbwe wokhala sabata atunthu asana adye pachimanga ayika kuchitsakano imeneyi mwansangala agwira yooneka achimunayi ntchito mopanda phuma. Ife omudziwa tikudziwa ndi olimba mtima ndi odekha ameneyu. N'chifukwa chake pomunyadira kuti nyadu timamutcha mayi ngwazi, ngwazi yachikazi.
Ati ndine wamkazi sindingagwira ntchito zina ayi. Poti ndine wamkazi ine panga ndipa nyumba basi. Nitokhala chilichonse ndingafune lelo. Nditogwira ntchito yomwe ndingafune lelo. Kaya ndi soldier, plumber, even a pilot too. Nitakugwira ntchito yomwe even mechanics, even carpentry too. Do you know we have politicians, electricians, wase wanazimai too. Oh oh. Nine mind ni ngwazi, ngwazi, ngwazi. Osatiyang'anira pansi nitakugwira ntchito yomwe ndifuna. Nine mind ni ngwazi, nine ngwazi yachikazi. Osatiyang'anira pansi. Anthu ambiri pondiyang'ana kundiderera ndi kundinyozetsa ndawi zina kundikomerera. Ati ntchito yanga sindikwanitsa, ati simbale yanga. Ndikhalani pansi muone ngwazi, ngwazi yachikazi. Nitakugwira ntchito yomwe ndifuna. Mind ni ngwazi, ni ngwazi yachikazi. Osatiyang'anira pansi. Nitakugwira ntchito yomwe ndifuna. Mind ni ngwazi, female ngwazi. Osatiyang'anira pansi. Nitakugwira ntchito yomwe ndifuna. Nine mind ni ngwazi, nine ngwazi yachikazi. Osatiyang'anira pansi. Nitakugwira ntchito yomwe ndifuna.
Everyday objects from your home or community can be used as a great tool for teaching vocabulary, guessing games, descriptions. For example, students could discuss the history of the object, analyze where it was manufactured and its human rights or environmental implications, or come up with an alternative and imaginative uses for various objects. Ask for permission to take your students outside of the classroom. The plants, animals, buildings, organizations, institutions, and people around us can all be used to generate lesson plans and make it more relevant and exciting for the students. Take students to meet women in positions of power or influence. Ask them to notice the roles that men and women play and discuss why. Create a human library helps teach students to read the text of their own and other people's lives. People are an excellent resource for information and learning about their stories. Helps students to break down stereotypes and develop empathy. Invite local community members and leaders to your class as guest speaker to talk about their work or issue of expertise. Wherever possible, make sure guest speakers do not reinforce gender stereotypes. For example, make sure you bring in a mix of male and female leaders and that guests treat all students equally. For example, students can engage in oral history research and interview local women to recognize and highlight the value, contributions, and wisdom of women in the community. Have them write their stories to be shared as reading materials or in a public exhibit. Additional resources. Up next is Unit 8, Gender Responsive Classroom Setup and Management.